So this is going to be some details about what happened in Egypt and what happened like to the people of Egypt because they wouldn't allow God's people to leave. This is from the Chronicles of Jerahmeel, and it says this. This is after Moses and Aaron had gone to Pharaoh. The Lord rose in his strength and smote Pharaoh and his people with many great and terrible plagues, and turned all their rivers to blood, so that whenever an Egyptian came to the river to draw water, as soon as he looked into his pitcher, he found it turned to blood. Whether for drinking or for kneading the dough or for boiling, it always looked like blood. After this, all the waters brought forth frogs, so that whenever an Egyptian drank of them, his stomach became full of frogs, which croaked about in his entrails just as they did in the river. Whether they kneaded or whether they boiled, the water was filled with frogs. Even when they lay down upon their beds, their very perspiration was turned into frogs. He then smote their dust so that it became like 2 cubits high. On their very bodies they lay a handbreadth, as well on the king and the queen as on the people. Following this, the Lord sent against them the wild beasts of the field to destroy them, serpents, vipers, and scorpions to injure them, mice, weasels, lizards, and noxious reptiles, flies, hornets, and other insects to fly into their eyes and ears, fleas, ants, and every species of winged insect to torture them. They filled the innermost recesses of their house. When the Egyptians tried to hide themselves in order to shed out and to escape the wild beast, the Lord ordered the sea monster, the octopus, to ascend to Egypt. It has arms 10 cubits in length, according to the cubit of a man. Rising to the roof, it uncovered the roof and exposed the rafters, and then it slid in its arms inside the house. It wrenched off the bolt and lock, and thus forced open the house of the Egyptians. In this manner, the hordes of wild beasts got into the palace of Pharaoh and his servants, and they worried them greatly. And God sent a pestilence among the horses, the asses, the camels, the cattle, and the sheep. And when the Egyptian rose early in the morning and went out to the pasture, he found his animals lying about dead, there remaining alive but 1 in 10. The Lord next sent a plague of fever among the Egyptians, which afterwards broke out into severe boils, which covered them from the sole of their foot to the crown of their head. They broke, and their flesh was running with streams of matter until they wasted away and rotted. And the hail devastated all their vines and trees, so that not even the bark or the leaves were left. All their produce was dried up, and a burning fiery flame played in the midst of it. Even the men and animals found abroad were slain by the flame, and all the libraries, houses of books were overthrown. Various kinds of locusts devoured everything left by the hail. What one species left, the other destroyed. The Egyptians, however, were glad to hunt them and salt them for food. The Lord then raised a very strong wind, which carried them all, including the salted ones, into the Red Sea, so that not a solitary one remained in the whole of Egypt. Darkness then covered the earth for 3 days, so that one could not see his own hand before his eyes. During this period of darkness, many Hebrews who had rebelled against their Creator rebelled also against Moses and Aaron, saying, "We shall not go forth lest we die in the desolate wilderness by famine." God smote them by a plague, and they were buried there these 3 days, lest the Egyptians should see them and rejoice at their downfall. All the firstborn of the Egyptians were then slain from man to animal. Even the likeness of their firstborn engraved on the walls of their houses was effaced and thrown to the ground. The bones of their firstborn that were buried in their houses, the dogs of Egypt dragged away, and breaking them to pieces devoured them before their very eyes of the people, so that their descendants cried out in anguish. The people of Egypt then hastened to accompany the servants of God, whom they sent away with much riches and many gifts, according to the oath which God sware to the covenant between the pieces. Moses went to Shihor, which is the Nile, and drawing up the coffin of Joseph, took it away with him. The heads of the tribes of Israel also assisted in bringing up each one of the coffins of his forefathers. Many of the heathen joined them in their departure from Egypt and in their journey of 3 days in the wilderness. On the 3rd day, however, they said to one another, "Did not Moses and Aaron tell Pharaoh that they wished to go a journey of 3 days in the wilderness in order to sacrifice to the Lord their God? Now let us rise early tomorrow morning and see if they return to Egypt to our Lord. We shall thereby know that they are to be believed, but if not, we shall go to war against them and bring them back by main force." On the 4th day they accordingly rose early and found Moses and Aaron eating and drinking and celebrating a festival to their God. The rabble said to them, "Why do you not return to your master?" Moses replied, "Because the Lord has warned us, saying, 'Ye shall no more return to Egypt, but ye shall go to a land flowing with milk and honey, as I have sworn to your fathers.'"